Hello everyone and welcome to the Lazy Kitchen. I'm very excited today because we're going to make fish cakes, healthy all-in-one fish cakes in a muffin pan. And the reason I am very excited is because I have made this recipe 9 times before finally getting it right. And because I don't believe in throwing away any food, I've eaten all 8 first versions and they were not particularly good. So yay, my purgatory with fish cake is over. So for those of you who are new to the Lazy Kitchen, we meet 2 basic human needs. One is the one to be lazy and the other one is to be healthy. We focus on recipes that are lazy in the sense that they take less than 10 minutes to make. They involve very little to no prep and cleanup. The second aspect of our recipes is thrifty. We try to make them as affordable as we can without sacrificing nutrition. And that's something that's more and more relevant right now. We're dealing with higher food prices and inflation, so hopefully we try to meet that other human need as well. And then the healthy part of the Lazy Kitchen is that we make all-in-one meal. All-in-one defined as we have our protein, we have a healthy starch. Incidentally, all the recipes are going to be gluten-free because I have celiac, and we put vegetables. Notice the plural, we have always more than one vegetable. That's often the hardest thing to put into your all-in-one meal. So let's talk about what we're going to do today and what is it that you'll need. We're going to make the batter in a pretty simple bowl. It's got my fish right now. And we're going to just throw them into a regular muffin pan. It's a little easier if it's a non-stick, but we're going to use a tiny bit of oil so they come out easily. So this recipe will be in the oven. It is a recipe that takes about 30 or 40 minutes to cook depending on your oven. So this is a great recipe to do if you have about 30 minutes from the time you get home and the time you want to eat them. It still takes less than 10 minutes to make. The other thing you'll need is just a plain fork, a spoon, measuring cup to measure out your ingredients, and then I always have, for those of you who've seen me work before with frozen vegetables, I always have a little bit of a catching bowl for the extra liquid. So let's talk about the ingredients. So fish cakes, usually we're going to have fish in them, and fish we really need it for a lot of health reasons. It can be very expensive. I will tell you, get the best white fish you can find without breaking the bank. As a backup, you can make it with 2 cans of good quality canned tuna. It's going to taste a little more like a fish casserole, which is still very good. I happen to have a mix of things that were in my freezer. They were, I think, flounder and then some other white fish. You're going to need maybe a cup and a half of fish total. You can often find them relatively inexpensive. I know that I had a whole bag of frozen flounder that was maybe like $5.99, so it's not quite a whole bag that I'm going to be using up. The other part of the protein is the eggs. We're going to use 2 eggs. Even high quality eggs are only going to be maybe 50 cents a piece. The healthy starch is something a little outside the box. We're going to use white beans, the white kidney beans, or the small little white beans. I think they're called small navy beans. And those we're gonna just a good quality can that's just beans, salt, and water is maybe like $1.20. We'll rinse and drain that in a second. As far as the vegetables, we're going to use 3 things. We're going to use half a cup of plain frozen chopped onions. A bag is about $1.20, so that's going to be maybe 50 cents tops. We're going to use rice, cauliflower, and broccoli to add a little bit of color and variety. Both of these are inexpensive, and you can the rice cauliflower, you can really find it everywhere. And a whole bag, and we're maybe going to need a bag, if not even that much. It's going to be like a couple dollars, so you budget maybe $1, $1.50 for your cauliflower. And then the rice broccoli is a little bit of a newcomer. It's available. A whole bag was $2.20 at Target, I believe. So maybe $1.10 or so worth of broccoli. A couple other things you're gonna need. Lemon pepper really rules when it comes to fish. Get the best quality one you can find. Make sure that it's not too full of junk on the ingredients. Not sure where I got this one, but it is in my pantry. Garlic is essential for fish cakes, so just any good quality plain dehydrated garlic. Both of these are easy to find and inexpensive. And then last, you're probably gonna need a little bit of a flour to hold things together and soak up some of the moisture from your vegetables in particular. You can use any flour. I would recommend for this one you use coconut flour because coconut is really the king at like soaking up moisture and making things that could be feeling pasty to make them hold together and a little bit firmer. Coconut flour is also extremely inexpensive. You can get a pound for about $4. It will last a while. It's also very healthy. It's high in fiber. So if you can find coconut flour, great. If not, whatever you have in your pantry that will allow you to thicken up the batter will be great. And then you're going to take a tiny bit of baking powder. It's the same regular baking powder that you will use for your baking. Okay, so I think we're going to get rolling. I'm going to move my muffin pan out of the way briefly, and I'm going to orientate things here. So, and as always, the accountability clock will be running, so let's get going. First thing we want to do is take the kidney beans. Oops, it has not worked out. There we go. Take the beans. I'm going to drain them a little bit so they're not too wet. So I'm going to be out of sight here. Good. And this is where you're going to use your prep bowl and put your kidney beans in it. And what you do is you just want to coarsely mash them. If you have a masher, that's great. If not, you can just use a fork to make them a little bit smaller. That's probably the more labor-intensive part of that. If you have a like a Ninja or a blender, you could probably just throw them in there if you don't mind rinsing that off. Good. Just give it a little bit of a mash. For those of you who have a good potato masher, that could also be an option. That's a good fork. Will get you a long way. Very good. Oops, get a little bit messy. The next thing I'm going to do, just to get them out of the way, is crack my 2 eggs. Good. And while I'm at it, I'm going to add a few of the things that I already have in here. Garlic depends how much you like it. I'm probably going to put like a good teaspoon. Lemon pepper to taste. Wild caught fish tends to be a little saltier, so you may not have to put as much. I'm going to put a good tablespoon. On the baking powder, you know, we probably want to do maybe like a good teaspoon. And then you're going to add the coconut at the end because you really never know, you know, depending on how moist your beans are, you may need to add a little bit more. We'll talk about the consistency that we want. Okay, so on the onions, always remember to wring out the juice. We're going to do half a cup of the onions. If I were a cup, where would my measuring device be? Pretty good. I'm going to add that. I'm going to add some of my broccoli. The same thing. This is a recipe where you don't want things to be too wet. So, you know, if you make a super wet nut or like a really wet stew, it doesn't really matter if things are a little moist, but And something like this it actually does. So just take that extra 5 seconds to get the juice out. So we're gonna do a cup of the broccoli, the rice broccoli, and we're gonna do a cup of the cauliflower as well. So you're actually getting really a lot of good plant food with this, like really good cruciferous vegetables. These things, they're just shredded, nothing's added to them. So, a little more. One notice I would say about this recipe is that it is a recipe that's on the lighter side in terms of calories, so it's great if that's what you currently need as part of your health. But if you have people that need more calories, they're recovering from illness, or you have people who are doing a lot of physical activity, you know, maybe throw a little avocado with it to add some calories. Good. Right. Good. And then we're gonna mix this in. So our batter is starting to take shape. And then the fish, one thing I would say about the fish is it can be in there pretty coarse. If you have a fish that breaks up really well, you know, I'm not picky about having larger pieces of fish. I'll have a tendency to break down spontaneously. And you can mix and match fish. I don't think that the bags I grabbed from the freezer were all from the same fish from what I can tell, and all ends up in the same place. White fish, definitely, I guess I've never made it with salmon, but feel free to try and let me know how that turns out. And I'm not even sure what this is. So I'm gonna make mine in the oven, but someone asked me a question the other day, and that is, can you make them in an air fryer? And I was like, you know, I don't have an air fryer, but actually I think that would probably work really well, actually. So be the first one to do it, and then send me a photo of it and with your comments about how that turned out. Good. Almost there. One more. So your total fish, I had measured it during my 9th trial, and 3 of these fillets were like just over 1 cup, which is about the right proportion, with a cup of the broccoli and cauliflower and whatnot. The advantage of using canned fish is you don't have to break it apart. That would be the one advantage, but I don't know. I think the frozen fish probably tastes a little bit better, is my guess. Okay. Make this a little smaller. Very good. So I'm gonna mix it all, and then I'm gonna decide how much flour I'm gonna add. And I'm going to start by doing, I would say for this, you're probably going to start with about 2 tablespoons. Remember, the coconut flour tends to absorb more moisture than most other flours, so you probably don't want to use as much. It will, by the way, not give you really a coconut flour at all. So I started out with 2, and for some reason my broccoli was a little bit juicy today, so I'm gonna do another tablespoon. And I feel pretty good about using the coconut flour because it's got such a good nutritional profile that, you know, you're only enhancing. Very good. So the consistency should be pretty, you know, it shouldn't be runny. It should be staying on your fork or on your spoon. And then before you start putting the batter into your muffin pan, you probably just want to take a little bit of it and make sure that you've got the saltiness that you want. So the garlic is great. I'm going to want this a little more salty. So I'm going to add another tablespoon. Make sure your hands are clean if you're ever going to dig your fingers in there. Very good. Perfect. Okay. So, last thing here. I would say they're going to come out of your muffin pan a little bit better if you add like a drop of oil. I'm going to use avocado oil in each one. And that way they come out nice and easy. Very good. And then you dish them out. When you dish them out, don't like totally, maybe fill up to your muffin to maybe not overflow. So you don't want to be going above the edge of the muffin pan. And this is going to give you a good, you know, you can feed probably a good 4 adults with this for a decent meal. Like I said, this is wonderful if you have someone who's trying to watch their caloric intake. If you have someone who's starving after a 10-hour hike, you may need to offer them a little something with them. I'm trying to fit them all in the 12 pan. See who needs more. And so this one might be a little generous. Come on over, give me a little fish. Excellent. All right, I went over a few minutes because I was taking from 2 different bags, but we are all done. I am going to put these guys in the oven on 350. I'm going to give them probably in my oven a good 30 minutes. Voila, enjoy.